It's been a while, hasn't it? But, welcome back, everyone, to Pokepaint. Yeah, after like half a year, we're back. But this time, we're not going to start a new region, we're actually going to revisit our first region of Coloniar. It's been a good long while since the finale, and that's given me enough time to look back and see what I would change if I were to do it again. In a little episode that I like to call the Pokepaint Season 1 Look Back. So let's get started right away with the first Pokemon. Here I have a replacement of sorts for Eaglet, our bald eagle Pokemon. So back when I designed this Pokemon, I was really convinced that I could do a ball better than Game Freak. But then quickly after the finale episode, when I had some time to step back and look at the series, I realized I like Braviary better than the one that I did, so we're scrapping Meldridal. Although that's kind of sad, I'm way more happy with what I've designed here, with a regional bird line based on goldfinches. So I developed Finchimp, the goldfinch Pokemon. They are very friendly with humans, often forming bonds with them in more rural communities. They are active most often during the mornings. Scientists believe that they are yellow because the color is considered a happy color by most humans. Finchimp would be a pure flying type. Its name stems from the words finch, chirp, pip, and friendship, just all kind of mashed together. Its ability would be Keen-Eye. Moving on from Finchimp's evolution, we have Meldridal, based on a J. Kind of. This Pokemon is supposed to be a bit of a mix between a Jay and a Canary. I went through a bunch of alternate designs for this Pokemon, and once I actually designed the final form, I had a better idea where this line was going, and I came back and redesigned this, which is good because it actually turned out to be one of my favorite designs for this whole video. Meldridal, the Canary Pokemon. These Pokemon are extremely smart and can use simple tools to hunt in the wild. They are popular as pets in the modern era because of their domestication long ago. They were owned by miners because of their sharp senses that would help them avoid dangerous Pokemon like a Luma Serpent in the mines. Meldridal's name comes from the mashing of the words melody and J. Finally, we come to the final form, Osburial, the final form of the regional birds of Coloniar. This was surprisingly difficult to find a fitting animal to base this Pokemon on, without making it just a bigger, meaner canary. My conundrum was solved actually at the end of last summer, when I was conceptualizing ideas for this video. My family and I took a trip to Cape Cod, and at a mini golf course of all places, there we saw these huge birds that were called ospreys who had built their nest at the top of a light pole. I thought they looked wicked cool, and I didn't even think of it as a possible Pokemon design until I saw that there was a family of finches that built their nest just under the osprey's nest. I would have thought that the ospreys would have eaten the finches, since they are carnivorous birds, but no, they seemed to get along in relative harmony. So, since they have that relation in my mind, now an Osprey Pokemon would be the next logical step. Like the first form, this Pokemon's name has a lot of root words, being auspicious, aerial, raptor, and of course, osprey. Anyway, the Pokedex entry states, Osburial, the Osprey Pokemon. Although bug and small rodent Pokemon live in fear of this powerful predator, many other Pokemon choose to build their nests near Osburial nests. This is because, being an intelligent Pokemon, they have an almost human sense of right and wrong and will drive away violent Pokemon that disturb the order of things. So, now that we have the new regional bird line for this region, and looking back on it, I think that I've retconned almost everything I've said in episode 4 of the series, with Meldridal no longer being a thing and me throwing out the regional Hoot design. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. bit of a story time. There were a lot of reasons why the finale episode of Pokepaint took almost 3 months to make, but the main one was that my computer died, like completely, couldn't really use it. So I had to salvage what designs I could. This came in the form of either redesigning Pokemon altogether or literally getting screen grabs of things that I had already posted and painting over the blemishes of the video quality. Yeah, that video was an absolute mess to make. And I decided that I didn't really like the Hoot Hoot and Noctowl designs enough to save them. Anyway, well, TLDR, Culinary and Hoot Hoot and Noctowl don't exist anymore. Moving on to another redesign, the first one that I did for the series actually, Gastropod. So my inspiration for this was actually my inspiration to do the whole series, and that was watching Subjectively do this for their Maza region Pokemon series. A series that is still going on to this day. And I wanted to use his original prompt of a garden snail Pokemon with a garden literally growing on its back. He used pottery as well, which I thought was a really cool idea, but each time I redesigned Gastropod, which was a lot of times by the way, I just didn't really find a look that I thought was right. So a little while ago I had a bit of an epiphany. What if I just ditched the pottery aesthetic altogether and had the snail be the garden itself? Yeah, that concept sounds a bit flimsy, but you'll see how it played out in the end. When doing Gastropod this time, I used a seed as the shell instead, and I drew it almost as though Gastropod was a seedling bursting out of its seed. So the dex entry reads, Gastropod, the garden snail Pokemon. Gastropod's bodies are extremely soft and vulnerable. This, however, does not impede its ability to survive one bit. With surprisingly fast reflexes, it can close its seed shell like a clam pearl does, and hide comfortably inside it for days. Wherever it goes, moss and grass will eventually grow in its path if the earth is left undisturbed. I didn't change Gastropod's name because I thought it still fit well enough and I couldn't come up with something that I really liked. For Mollisprout, I didn't change its design from the finale redo almost at all. Out of the three, this is by far the one that's remained the most consistent stage. I simplified its shape a little bit and used the leaves from my original version of Gastropod here. And boom, we have the final version of this Pokemon, Mollisprout, the garden snail Pokemon. The plants that grow from the Pokemon shell are an excellent indicator of its health. It is important that trainers do not trim these leaves, as this would damage the Pokemon. This Pokemon spends a lot of time bathing in the sunlight, and as a pet, it will often seek to sit in the windowsill or by its screen door. Finally, we have the last form, Gardevoir. I'm definitely super happy with how this version came out. And funnily enough, it closest resembles my original design. I guess I wasn't as far off as I thought. I also feel that this is the best approximation of the original concept, a snail with a garden growing on its back. I messed around with the shape a lot in pre-production and landed on one where the shell actually fit way further over the head than I thought was appropriate. But hey, it worked out. Sometimes you won't know that something's gonna work until you try it. Gardevoir, the overgrown Pokemon. If a Gardevoir spends enough time in one place, the plants in the area will flourish. It has been discovered that this is because of a fertilizer-like compound found in the sticky mucus that secretes from its skin. In some foreign regions, the indigenous people will incorporate this into soups, and it has similar healing properties to cold medicine. Whew, oh boy. I feel like I've been overloading you all with all this Pokemon information, but don't worry, we're more than halfway through. Here, let's actually take a bit of a break and go over the map. It took me a long time to get anywhere close to an art style that I thought was appropriate for the map, and although I don't think it looks like an official Pokemon map at all, I think it looks appropriate for the Cloniar art style. So let's get into it. The main few changes are in the northwest of the map, with the rest going virtually untouched. The biggest change was that I combined Industrial Town and Culture Palace City into one. I did this for several reasons, the main one being that it works better story-wise, having the rival evil teams fighting each other in one city and tearing that apart, since them being closer together would probably cause more chaos. And also because the real inspiration, being Manchester and Concord in New Hampshire, they're pretty much the same city anyways. The name would also of course be changed into New Motostoke City, since Manchester, New Hampshire was named after Manchester in England, and the Galar city of Motostoke is the Pokemon world's equivalent to Manchester, England. I thought I'd bring that connection back into Cloniar to tie the two regions even closer together. I also added two towns. One is another small town on the north side of the wild area, and the relative area where Keene, New Hampshire would be in real life. This town would also give you access to the late game areas inside of Halominal Forest. Because of that, I decided that an appropriate name for this town would be Foliage Town. The final edit to the map was my addition of Penalt City, that takes the place of the Champion Village. It was named as such because it would be the second to last place that you would access in the game, being the city that is just across the lake from the Pokemon League. This lake being the stand-in for Lake Champlain, it's not too hard to see that this city is the stand-in for the real world Burlington, Vermont. I guess that would mean that the Pokemon League facility in this region would technically be part of Unova, because it sits right on top of where Pittsburgh, New York would be in real life. Well, that's about it for the map edits for now, so let's get on with some more Pokemon designs. Even though the recording for it failed, I redesigned a Luma Serpent, because I found that it was one of the more forgettable Pokemon that I made, and I didn't really want that to happen. I think it's because its original art failed to show its true stature. Not to mention, Glatarval, the first form, is one of my absolute favorite Cloniar Pokemon. Another forgettable Pokemon, in my opinion, was Zapodine, the Jumping Mouse Pokemon. This was disappointing to me, because I really liked the idea when I came up with it. The design was just bad though. Simply, my skills as a digital artist at the time were not really up to snuff with what I wanted to do. The next entry reads, "They jump to build static electricity in their cheeks. They are attracted to electricity and can often be found in cities and around electrical plants. Due to their unfortunate habit of chewing on power lines, they are known to cause blackouts in many of the major cities of Cloniar." The last redesign was Meldridal, because like all of these Pokemon so far, it fell into a category of I like it, but I wasn't a very good digital artist last year. I didn't change that much about Meldridal. I gave it another set of arms to further show its insect inspiration, but that's really it. Its Pokedex entry goes something like this. Meldridal, the stink bug Pokemon. These Pokemon breed in the autumn. Because of that, they are numerous during that season. They produce a foul-smelling gas from their gut to drive enemies away. Be wary. If you defeat a Meldridal during battle, be careful not to inhale its toxic fumes. They will cause you to become violently ill. So, I sort of lied. Well, not really. I redid Meldridal for the aforementioned reason that I wasn't pleased with how bland the original artwork was, but I also planned for a while to give it 2 pre-evolutions. This is where I'll give you some insight into some behind-the-scenes stuff of the series. So Meldridal was going to start out as a larva Pokemon of some sort. I played around with a lot of ideas that ranged from maggot-like to beetle-like to even a little bug that resembled a pumpkin. That might sound odd, but another local term for the stink bug is the pumpkin bug. The second form would take the expected form of a chrysalis, but almost look like a mixing jar or a barrel of toxic sludge. I specifically liked the second stage a lot, and these almost made it in. But unlike many beetles, the stink bug's life cycle doesn't exhibit metamorphosis really. It's born as a stink bug, and stays as one, just gets bigger. I also have some art laying around for this video of the preliminary sketches that I settled on for my final designs. I thought you might find them interesting. A final tidbit that I'll share with you will be this. I had an idea for a psychic chimp that would evolve into a fat but hyper-intelligent gorilla, and this is going to be the ace of Professor Maple Jr., the psychic-type gym leader. And the abandoned settlement would have actually been a far-off tropical sanctuary, where these Pokemon would have thrived. As you can probably figure out, this psychic chimp Pokemon eventually became the lab rat Pokemon Experamos and Disastant. I also remember one of my working ideas was to give Micrant a male evolution, but it would have green markings and it would have taken the term army ant literally. Anyways, whether you find these ideas cool or just plain strange, we're going to move on to the final chunk of the video. The post-game would take place in an expanded map of Coloniar and Unova. But as I hinted towards at the end of the Pokepaint finale, the face of Unova would look almost entirely different. In Universitown City, you could access Unova through the Marine Tube, and the immediate change to the region could be easily noticed. Many of the central features that defined Unova in the real games have been swallowed up by Castelia City. These would be Nakreen City, Pinwheel Forest, Route 4, the Desert Resort, Nambasa City, Route 5, and Driftvale City, being amongst them. On the other hand, nature would have taken over many of the abandoned places. These would be the ruins of Isira City. After Bryson moved to Verbank City, no commerce was brought to that faraway place. And Lacunosa Town, having been sat abandoned due to people eventually moving out in fear of Kyurem. In place of Mistralton City, there is in the modern day a singular airport, and Striaton City no longer exists, having been abandoned due to mysterious hauntings in the dream yard that drove people away. The Enterlink would also no longer exist. It would now be drowned under a massive lake. However, there are many new areas to explore, like the Unova Wild area, which is based on upstate New York, a massive open space with cities based on Buffalo, Albany, and Rochester. The Wild area would be accessed just beyond the original Victory Road, or on another route through the Giant Chasm. The Buffalo, New York equivalent would connect to the long isolated Anvil Town. An NPC would explain that a group of explorers are setting up an expedition to colonize the great wilds inland of Unova, and that they're using the city as a staging ground. Of course, this would just be an Easter egg to a region that might be based on the Oregon Trail, which, now that I'm saying it out loud, would probably make a really cool Pokemon region. Okay, that's not the region for Season 2, I'm not hinting at anything, but I might actually put that on the list of things I might want to do in the future. In the story, you would hunt down the remnants of the scattered evil teams, and learn that they both have their origins in the long-disbanded Team Plasma. You could also battle several of the old gym leaders, many of them having relocated since their towns have been abandoned. The triplets of the Striata gym would now be able to be found in Castelia, and Bryson would have his gym in Verbank, of course. He would have by now entirely embraced his role as Bryson Man from Black and White 2. Back in Coloniar, there would be side quests for each of the mountain guardians of the wild area, and you could rematch each of the gym leaders. Whew. Sorry everyone, but I feel like I kind of word vomited that onto all of you. But I think I got out all of my ideas for the post-game for now. I think that's about it for everything that I wanted to tell you guys. Thank you all so much for watching. This is, at least for the foreseeable future, the last time I'll revisit Coloniar for a while. So on the next Pokepaint, we're starting Season 2 and setting out to a whole new region. I guess I'll give you a hint. We're going somewhere tropical.